Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is an action film from Mexico, Spanish language English subs, released in the year 2025, directed by Cartel, and this film is called Counterattack. So Counterattack is about a group of friends. They belong to the special forces of the Mexican military, and they have just had a run-in with the drug cartel. So the drug cartel have come off worse for it, and now they are furious. They want vengeance, and so their group of friends are now a target. And so they decide, in order to get away from the pressure, they're going to go to a remote land and relax, camp, and just have a bit of fun and try and unwind. But unfortunately, on the way to their destination, they're ambushed by the cartel, and now the group of friends are running through the forest with this cartel pursuing very close behind them, and now it's going to turn into a bloody fight for survival. So whether or not the friends live to tell the tale, something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Counterattack. Although this movie did have some positives to it, unfortunately I couldn't help but feel very disappointed by the end result. So this is a movie that does have a fairly good IMDb score, so if you like the movie more than I did, please feel free to share your opinions. But if I'm being brutally honest, I wanted a lot more from this, and this movie possesses the problem that a lot of action films out there have. So if this movie went a different direction, I actually thought it could have been a lot more thrilling, but as a result of that, as I said, I was very disappointed. So that's something I'll go into a little bit later, but what I liked about the film is production-wise, it is very, very competent. It knows exactly what it's doing. The choreography and the action set pieces was very impressive. I thought the setting of the forest was fantastic, felt like a world of its own, and I thought the group of friends was the best part of the film, because the chemistry between them, I actually thought as though they genuinely loved each other. There was banter between them that I thought, alright, well these people will actually die for each other, therefore I hope they get out of this predicament. The character development was actually quite intelligent. It wasn't enough to sidetrack and distract it from what it wanted to be, but it was enough to actually give you some sort of care for their plight. I thought the bad guys, you know, the Mexican cartel, cartels in Mexico are a huge problem, so it's yet another movie about cartels, but it's not taking itself too seriously. It's not a commentary on society of, Mexico and what they're actually facing, but it's using that as a villain. So it's good guy versus bad guy. There's no grey matter, there's no in between, and so it knows exactly what it wants to be. It wants to be a standard sort of action film that's going to have you on the edge of your seat right until the very end. And so for the most part it achieved that. The acting was actually quite decent. As I said, because this chemistry was so good, it wouldn't have been possible without a decent script, and I thought for an action film the script was fairly decent. And it doesn't take very long to get into the really good parts. So if you expect an action film, this is exactly what it's going to deliver, because it is actually quite self-aware. But unfortunately, that's where the positives stop, and this is where the negatives begin. The film had a level of safety to it because of the fact that these were special forces. Now, with a lot of action films, whether it's special forces, Navy SEAL, CIA, these characters that have a lot of ability, that doesn't make them very relatable. So therefore, you're watching a movie and never really feel as though they're in danger. There are dangerous moments, but because they're so skillful, you realise that they're going to get out of this predicament. And so I always felt as though I was one step ahead of what was going on, because I thought as though, okay, they're going to get themselves out of it. Whereas if this was an everyday group of friends, everyday people, without the skills of these characters, I thought as though it would have been a lot more thrilling and horrifying, because you got cartel members that are actually chasing them. And I thought it would have been a lot better if it went down that direction instead of the shootout direction. Now, yes, it is an action film, it does deliver what it promises, but unfortunately, because of the generic sort of predictable quality, it does become a little bit tiresome by the end of the film. So it's an 85-minute movie, but I felt as though it was went a lot longer because of the fact it started to recycle. The action set pieces at the start were impressive, but then I realised it didn't have much else to it, because you don't gravitate to the characters enough to truly care. Yes, as I said, the chemistry's there, it was a group of friends, it was decent for this sort of action film, but unfortunately not enough to really carry it over the line. And so the action, you get shooting, people getting shot, and then after a while I started to feel as though I'd become desensitized to this situation. And I was just waiting for what I thought was going to happen. And so the predictability is there because of the level of safety that a lot of action films have. And so that was the biggest issue with Counterattack, and that was why I was so disappointed. As I said, if it was an everyday sort of event with people that you could relate to, I thought as though it would have been far more terrifying. There are moments that are actually quite thrilling, but unfortunately the thrilling is not sustained. I always felt as though there were little breaks in between that allowed you to catch your breath, and so the sustainability of the thrilling aspects of this movie were not enough to really save it, and therefore at the end of it I thought as though it was very, very forgettable and very, very disposable. So it is a film That is not bad. I mean, it's not terrible, but unfortunately it's not a movie that's going to pull itself out of the shadow of, you know, numerous other films of this type, and that is the reason why I couldn't help but feel disappointment. So overall, for Counterattack, going to give this one 2 stars. Choreography and the action set pieces is good, but unfortunately I just felt as though it was lacking truly thrilling moments, because it doesn't really go out of its way to be you know, unpredictable. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.